Welcome to Silver Bar Stacker, folks. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their Sunday. That's right, folks. Today is Sunday, and that means that we've got a new SBS drop. But before we get into the details of today's SBS drop, we've got to take care of a couple of unboxings. And I'm excited about these unboxings because these unboxings are coming to us from Canada. And I'm even more excited about these unboxings because it's not just one or two unboxings that I've picked up, but we've actually got multiple unboxings. And this isn't just multiple unboxings that we've got to do together today, but these are all Canadian unboxings. So I'm excited to share the details of today's drop, which just so happens to be a Canadian themed SBS drop. So stay tuned, and maybe you might want to get involved and opt into this week's drop and get your hands on some nice Canadian vintage pieces. But first, let's get into the unboxing. And we'll just go ahead and see what we find in here. Now this right here, right off the bat, you can see that these are some Scotiabank bars. And you'll also see that these are in the original factory seal. So I'm very, very excited about that fact. But let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the reverse of these bars, and maybe we'll find some more interesting details, and maybe we can find out some more information that would allow me to expand a little bit about these bars, okay? Because there's also Johnson Matthey, but then there's also Engelhard that both produce the Scotiabank bars, and in fact there's also just generic Scotiabank bars that are not by Johnson Matthey or Engelhard and were just produced by Scotiabank, and those are just generic bars. So there's many different types of Scotiabank bars actually. So we'll have to actually take a look at the reverse of this to really figure out what's going on. Now over here, let's go ahead and just break right into this. This one came from Canada. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. Now take a look at this. This is an Engelhard right here, baby. So I'm very excited to always be picking up an Engelhard, and you can say definitively just by looking at this Engelhard that this is a Canadian Engelhard. And how can I say that? Because I'm looking at that maple leaf logo right here on the front. That's a very iconic maple leaf logo here. You see that? Engelhard. So you see this on the front of the bar, you can instantly tell yourself that this is a Canadian variety Engelhard bar. And I'm a very big fan of Canadian variety Engelhard bars. In fact, what you see right here, this is an entire box full of Canadian variety Engelhard bars. And so when it comes down to the Canadian variety Engelhard bars, there's very many different types actually. You know, I've actually just hand selected a few of the different types here that you can see. This one right here, it's kind of got a blank back, completely blank back. There's no sort of a border, it's just like a flat blank back, mirror back. Okay, and you'll just make a note of this front. Now you look at this right here, this looks pretty similar, but you'll notice that, hey, look at that 1 troy ounce. You compare it to this, the 1 troy ounce is centered in between that maple leaf logo, but on this one it's sort of down a little bit. So that kind of is the difference between these two, because they both have the flat blank backs you see there. Now there's another variety also, and this one has that 1 troy ounce stamp centered in between, but what's different about this is that this one actually has a border around that edge. You see that bordered edge? So there's actually these three, I would say these are kind of the common varieties of the maple leaf. And so what you want to actually look for is you want to actually look for the blank mirror back that has the 1 troy ounce centered in the middle, because that's actually the lowest mintage of those three on the bottom. Your most common is going to be the one that has the bordered back, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that, you're going to have the one that has the troy ounce further down. I want to say this is 25,000 minted, maybe 15,000 minted or so, and then like 5,000 minted. So Don't quote me on those mintages. You can go on allengelhard.com to sort of verify those mintages, but if I'm not mistaken, it's something like that. Now, up above, we have some other varieties. Like over here, you've got. You see these numbers here? These numbers are larger. That makes this very rare, actually. It's very uncommon that these maple leaf bars have the larger serial numbers there. So that's, just a little collector's quirk. That's one of the varieties of the maple leaf that's a little bit more rare. Another thing to look for is if you can find these maple leaf bars in that original red seal. They don't always come in the red seal. The red seal ones are not as common, You'll see some like this. Oh, sorry, this isn't even an original seal. This is just a plastic flip, but I've got one right here, for example, that's the original seal, but no red seal. So you're going to want to look out for the red seals too, because those are a little bit of a less common variety as well, those red seal ones. And then you also have some crazy rare varieties such as this. This is a crazy low mintage. I think it's like a 3000 minted bar, and so those ones sell at crazy high premiums. And if you put them up on an auction or something, they'll also go at a pretty crazy premium. So that's a little bit of a rundown here on the maple leaf. I know we took a little bit of a tangent there, but this is kind of actually related to today's SPS drop. Today's SPS drop, anybody who opts in is actually going to be getting themselves a maple leaf Engelhard bar, right? So it's a $100 drop, and you'll be guaranteed to get yourself a maple leaf bar, as well as something else that I'll kind of get into the details of. But back to this maple leaf bar. You'll take a look at this and you're like, oh, okay, well, based off what SBS said, this is the most rare variety of the common Engelhard maple leaf bars, right? Wrong. Even rarer. This is actually a TD Bank branded maple leaf bar. So the maple leaf Canadian variety bars actually were also co-branded with TD Bank, and this is actually just a 1000 minted bar. Very difficult to find these bars. I was really happy to pick it up because I don't have a whole lot of examples of this one, and I love my Canadian Bank bars, so I was really excited to pick this up. Speaking of Canadian Bank bars, I like Scotiabank too. Scotiabank bars are one of my favorite bars to collect, and I'm very excited to pick this one up in particular because these are not just any Scotiabank bars. It's a set of two. They're in the original factory seal. They're produced by Engelhard. So again, you see that Canadian maple leaf logo there on the back. And to just make this a cherry on the top, right here we got some sequential serial numbers. Zero zero 3476, 003477. So that right there, folks, adds some major layers of value here. Not only are these low mintage, not only are these vintage, not only are these Engelhards, not only are these in the original factory seal, but they also have sequential serial numbers. Not to mention the fact that they are serialized. There's a lot of vintage bars out there that aren't serialized. Okay, so I actually prefer serialized bars. Any day of the week, if you put two bars in front of me and one of them serialized, there's a very good chance, even if one is poured versus pressed, I'll probably go for the serialized bar, more than likely. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? Not all bars are created equal. I know a lot of people like to say that silver is just silver, but silver is not just silver at the end of the day. That's all I've got to say. I say that as a joke sometimes, that silver is just silver. But silver is not just silver. Not when you get into collectible stuff. Because I have my emotions run when I see different pieces. So I can tell you that if I feel differently about one piece versus another, then silver is not just silver. Let's move on with the Canadian journey. Package within a package, classic. Well, another Engelhard maple leaf Canadian logo. Let's take a look and see what we got here. Now this bar is something I'm incredibly excited to pick up, because this is not something that I had very many of, or I possibly didn't have any of these yet. And this is not in the original factory seal. This is a pressed bar. This is an extremely rare bar, and so we must put our gloves on to pay respects to the bar. let's go ahead and see what we got here. Look at this chunky McChunkerson. I really, really like this bar in hand a lot more than I did before. TD Bank. Now this right here, folks, is also a 1000 minted bar. Both of these, it's like a little set of twins right here. Crazily enough, both of these bars are 1000 minted. 1000 minted, 1000 minted. Very, very rare bars, but generally speaking, you would see that 1 ounce bars generally would have a higher mintage, but in this case, it's not the case. Both the 10 ounce Engelhard TD Bank bar and the 1 ounce TD Bank Engelhard bar are both 1000 minted each. And let me tell you something, both of these bars are much, much harder to find than other types of bars. For example, right, like you got your Scotiabank 1 ounce bars, those are also 1000 minted, just like the TD Bank Engelhard bars are. But for whatever reason, I would say that the TD Bank bars are much, much more difficult to find than the Scotiabank Engelhard bars. And also when it comes down to the TD Bank Engelhard bars, this is a funny one because this is 1000 minted and the Scotiabank Engelhard 10 ounce bar is only 500 minted. Actually, all Engelhard used to say that it was 250 minted, but they actually changed their mintage figures, probably because they discovered some new serial numbers which helped them extrapolate that, hey, it's actually probably closer to 500 minted. But regardless, there's allegedly half as many Scotiabank Engelhard branded bars as there are TD Bank Engelhard branded bars, but the Scotiabank Engelhard branded bars are, I would say, easier to find, easier to source than the Engelhard TD Bank bars. So that's just weird, right? I wouldn't say it's weird. I would say that it's probably what it is, you know, there's such low liquidity on these bars. There's so few of them out there. And so if you get 1, 2, 3 collectors, now you start turning that into 10 collectors who are all trying to get multiple examples of these very, very low mintage bars. And what ends up happening is that drives up the price. That also makes them much more scarce because a lot of people who buy nice things that they get very sentimentally attached to, they never want to sell them. And so if they never want to sell them, then nobody can ever buy them because they're always locked up in some safe somewhere. So, you know, it's very possible that, you know, yeah, the mintage figures are correct, but it just that so happens that the people who maybe hoard TD Bank vintage Engelhard bars, they're a little bit more tight-handed than the people who collect the Scotiabank ones. That's just what I would say, based off of my experience. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got in this package right here. Box within a bag. Classic. You can see we got a chunker in here. I'm really excited about this one because this will look very familiar to you. Yes, folks. I was able to grab a couple of them. And take a look how close these serials are to each other. 410734, 410930. Very, very close serials. And these are 1000 minted bars. Another TD Bank branded bar. So I'm very, very excited to have been able to pick up another example of this. Quite a few packages here. Let's start with this one. This seems to be a hefty chunker, plus it's already kind of open. Box within a bag, and this is, I'm assuming that there's going to be some hefty chunkers in here, like 5 or 10 ounce bars, because I know I did pick up some 5 and 10 ounce bars here, and so that's what I'm guessing is in here. I'm actually wrong. This is much bigger than a 5 or a 10 ounce bar. We'll go ahead and save this for later, because I'm actually extremely excited about this bar. I'm excited about what's in this package here. I can tell you that because this is a heavy one. So I'm going to pre-open this one too, just to build the hype a little bit. You're gonna think like, okay, well, you're building the hype. If I'm not actually impressed by this, then I'm gonna be kind of annoyed, SPS. But I think that you'll be very excited about what's in both of these packages. So that's why I pre-opened this package. We're gonna save the best for last. And you know what's funny is that in one of these packages, in fact, I think in both of these packages, there's some really, really nice stuff. There's some like gold, I think, possibly in both of these packages. So that's what's funny. It's like I'm saving the best for last. which happens to be silver, but there's actually gold in these packages. So I don't know, what are you more excited for? I rarely open up any gold, so maybe you're more excited about the gold that I'm about to open up. You can be the judge of that. You don't have to worry about it because it's all going to get opened here. I'm not going to leave anybody hanging. I'm not going to leave the people who are eager to see whatever's bigger than a 10-ounce bar here. I'm not going to leave you people hanging, but I'm certainly going to leave you hanging for a little bit of time, because take a look at that. We got some gold right there. And that looks like a pretty hefty piece of gold too, doesn't it? I'm pretty excited about that. Let's go ahead and pre-open another thing before we get into that, because I'm really excited about these, and I'm also really excited about that, but I'm going to build the hype a little bit and open up what's in here, and we'll maybe take a look at these first, and then we can take a look at what's over there. So let's go ahead and see what we got over here. Yeah, see, there's more gold there. So I'm pretty excited about this, actually. This is actually going to be pretty epic, everything that we take a look at, because, again, it's all Canadian stuff. I went on a little bit of a Canadian kick here, and I picked up a bunch of Canadian stuff. So let's go ahead and kick things off with this. See a little bit of gold fracks in there, right? There's even some silver in there as well. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got here. Let's take out the silver first. Take a look at this. So we were just talking about maple leaf bars. And remember how I showed you that there was that maple leaf bar that has the larger font? Well, I came across another example that has the larger font. So I thought, let me just add that to the stack. It's good to have sometimes examples, multiple examples of things like that, right? Because then that way, if I have a good friend or something like that who also wanted an example of the large font one, then I could probably initiate a trade with them if they were like very, very close to me, right? I know somebody who, one of my very close friends who's very much into collecting these different examples. He's a little bit of an obsessive person like I am. So I'm probably going to reach out to him and be like, hey, you know, I've got an example of this. So if you want to facilitate a trade, then we could probably make that happen. Another cool thing that I was able to pick up, and I am a collector of these. This is probably the one few thing that I would say is not necessarily Canadian, because I don't think this is a, I don't know for sure if this is a Johnson Matthey Canadian variety or if this is Johnson Matthey US. But regardless, it is a bar that I collect. I am a fan of these fractional half-ounce silver bars. They are lower mintage, so I like to collect these. I was able to pick up a couple examples, and so this one is one that I caught my eye. Not only was I able to get, in my opinion, a pretty good deal on these for what they are and based off their mintage and their specs, but on top of that, these are sequential serials. So I just had to, especially because it was a great price in my opinion. So 005096, 005095. Sequential serials. I just found this to be really, really awesome. So I was super excited to pick that up. Now, in addition to that, there are also some gold fractionals that I had to pick up. I just had to pick them up. And I'm super, super duper excited about these because I was able to get some, I think, duplicates, right? Yeah, so like for this one, for example, this is a 1 gram Royal Bank wafer. So Royal Bank of Canada. You'll barely be able to see it, but I just love the Royal Bank of Canada stamp. Royal Bank, fine gold, 9999. 4 nines fine gold, 1 gram. Royal Bank of Canada, and the back is so intricate. So many different Royal Bank mini stamps there, and it's actually serialized too. And then on the bottom there's a JM Hammer logo. This is a very intricate fractional bar, which I cannot show you the proper details of, and I apologize about that fact. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So anyways, the serial number on this is A1402. So I'm super, super excited to pick up this Royal Bank gold fractional wafer. I also was able to pick up a Scotiabank 5 gram wafer, and this one right here is actually a Johnson Matthey. You see that as well. So this is also a Johnson Matthey. This is also serialized. 001248. So I'm pretty excited that I was able to pick up this because I am a collector of anything that is Canadian bank related, and I did previously have an example of this. I actually had a couple examples of this, and I actually gave one up to a friend, right, because they're a big fan of the Scotiabank stuff. So I was happy to be able to finally replenish this. So I'm very, very excited about that. Now this is something that I didn't have an example of and that really, really caught my eye. This, just like that JM wafer, this is a Canadian Maple Leaf 1 gram gold fractional. An Engelhard Maple Leaf 1 gram gold. So this has a blank back right here, and just like we're talking about all these Maple Leaf varieties, this is like a little miniature version of these bars in gold form. I've never seen these before. I imagine they're extremely low mintage because there's also a 1 gram silver fractional that looks just like this, which is extremely low mintage. And so I bet you that this gold one is also quite low mintage. So I'm very excited to have picked up these beautiful Canadian vintage fracs. I'm also happy to have picked up some gold that is not of the fractional variety, Scotiabank. And the reason I had to pick this up is I do have, I believe, an example of this, but I just love that Engelhard Canadian Maple Leaf logo so much, right? And so I just had to pick this up. The Engelhards, there's also a Matthey variety of this as well. So I'll maybe show that to you in another video when we're kind of looking a little bit at the gold deep stack or something like that. But really, really excited to pick up this Engelhard Scotiabank gold bar. And what really made it be a must for me that I grabbed this is that it's in the original factory seal. Huh. Beautiful. Now the silver variety of this, not the JM, well, the JM also, the JM Scotiabank, and also the Engelhard Scotiabank. These ones are Engelhard Scotiabank. So the Engelhard Scotiabanks silver 1 ounce are 1,000 minted. So how rare is the 1 ounce gold variety? Probably rarer than 1,000 minted. I don't have the mintage information because allengelhard.com doesn't have the mintage information currently for those bars, for any of their gold bars. They only have the gold rounds up right now, but it's very, very exciting right there to be able to pick that up. Now, here we got a beautiful bar. I'm very, very excited about this. I've never seen this before. I've never seen this larger bar in here. There's also a smaller bar in here, which Scotiabank. And check this out, another Scotiabank. So we were just talking about these Scotiabank ones that I have, the Engelhard variety, that they're sequential. Well, check these out. These are quite heavily toned, but what's nice is that they're both also in the original factory seal. And right here, both 1,000 minted, but here you have an example of each, a JM and an Engelhard. So that right there in the flesh, you can see both versions of the 1,000 minted bars. Very, very exciting stuff. Now this bar right here is a 500 minted bar, but it's very, 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 very rare. I've never seen one ever. Okay, I know I've seen it on Engelhard. I've seen a picture of it, but I've never seen one ever available for sale. I've seen the larger versions of these bars available for sale before, but I've never seen the 20 ounce variety of this bar for sale. Now this right here, look at that. That, first of all, straight off the bat, is a beautiful little imperfection right there. Secondly, this is a poured bar. So instantly you can compare the poured bar to your pressed variety and you are just astounded by the beauty. What is the common thread here? TD Bank. And not only is this just a TD Bank poured bar, right here, Matthey, baby. This is a Matthey bar. Let's take a look here. Let's take a look at these stamps. Canada Assay Office. F003657. And this is a 20 ounce variety. So there's actually two variations of the 20 ounce variety. And this so happens to be the more common of the two. There's a 250 minted and then there's a 500 minted. And this right here, this beautiful toner, happens to be one example of the 500 minted variety. So I'm very, very excited to pick up this Johnson Matthey TD Bank co-branded bar. It's extremely rare and very, very exciting for me. I'm very, very excited to hold this in the flesh. And what I like about this bar is that it kind of has almost like a matte finish. A lot of the Johnson Matthey poured bars have kind of almost like a matte finish, kind of like the W series bars. If you've ever seen a W series Engelhard bar, it has sort of like a weird funky finish. A lot of the Johnson Matthey poured bars have a similar type of finish as well. So this is a really, really beautiful bar that I'm very, very happy to add to the deep personal stack, because I don't know if I'll ever see one of these pop up again. I really don't. I really don't know if I'll see another one of those pop up again. So when I had the opportunity, when one of my suppliers said that he had one and he was finally willing to part with it, I said, I must have it. I told him I must have it. Check this out. Suitors the better. Now, Suitors was a photography company. I believe they're based in Ontario, somewhere in Canada. Photography company. And so Johnson Matthey actually produced some bars for Suitors. And in fact, I actually have these things. So Suitors is not really in the photography business anymore, but they used to be up until 1985. And then once they, shut their doors, they basically gave these little quarter-gram silver medallions to their employees. So I've got some of these. I actually recently sold off most of them because there was a collector who was quite obsessive about these. And so he cleaned me out on most of mine, but I made sure to reserve enough of these to be able to kind of pair with my Suitors bars, because I'm a big fan of the Johnson Matthey Suitors bars, right? And so this right here is the little medallion that contains a quarter gram, so 0.25 of 1 gram. That's like 25 cents worth of silver. But what's interesting about this little medallion is that the silver has been recovered from your films with our sophisticated electrolysis recovery system. So they actually have taken the silver and extracted it from the films that they recycled and made these little medallions to give out to their employees as a little commemorative thing to remember the company that they worked for up until 1985. So I thought this was really, really kind of a cool thing. I found this to be very, very cool. And so what I found to be cool about these Suitors bars, in addition to the fact that they're in the original factory seal, is that they also have sequential serials. So S15060, S15061. So that's pretty cool. And if you actually go on All Engelhard, I'm not going to waste my time trying to dig up the other variation of this, but if you go on allengelhard.com and go into the Johnson Matthey definitive pages and take a look at the 1 ounce AG bars, you'll find that there's actually 2 different versions of the Suitors silver bars, right? And so this happens to be the lower mintage, the rarer version of the 2 different Suitors bars. So I just find that to be an interesting fact. Very, very exciting stuff. Now, the grand finale is what is remaining in this bag. I was telling you I may never be able to come across another one of these, and it's true. I probably will never be able to come across another one of these, and if I do come across another one of these, there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to purchase it. It might be, sold privately to some other collector. It might be, put up for auction. I might just not be able to win that bid. Anything could happen that I wouldn't be able to grab another version of this because there's so few of these. There's only 500 of these out there. So it's very highly unlikely that I'll be able to bump into another one of these. I really don't think I will. But I think just good things happen in pairs or something, because as I was finalizing the deal on this, I was able to find the other version of the TD Bank Johnson Matthey co-branded poured 20 ounce bar. You see the difference. Straight off the bat, you can tell what the difference is. You see the serial number is listed like that, the serial number is listed like that. Because the serial number is listed like that, that makes this a 250 minted bar, and so this one is in much, much better condition. It's not toned at all. It's got some striking pour lines here if you take a look at it. striking pour lines here in the front. Unlike this bar doesn't have nearly as striking pour lines. So this has really nice pour lines. It's much cleaner bar, and this is a lower mintage 250 minted bar. Now, one thing I will say is that the back of this bar, for me at least, is much more appealing. This is like the size of my thumb, and I just love this little imperfection. So if you had to ask me what's my favorite bar out of these two, I would say I cannot choose. I love the pour lines on this. I love the cleanliness of this, but I love the imperfect nastiness of this one. So I'm very, very excited to have been able to grab a nice pair of 20-ounce TD Bank Johnson Matthey co-branded poured bars. Very, very exciting for me. maybe the way that I'm reacting is not showing how excited I am, but I'm very, very excited and happy that I was able to pick that up. Now, it's been a pretty long video. Let's get into the details of today's drop. It's going to be a simple one, folks, so I'm not going to overcomplicate things. For $100, if you want to opt in, and I don't know, I'll limit it to, let's just say, 5 per person. I'm going to limit it to 5 per person. But, you know, if we go over, you know, the sale of like 10 or 15 bars, I might have to cut it off. So, you know, hopefully there's not too many apes out there. But anyways, I'm going to limit it to like 5 per person, and it's going to be $100 per drop, okay? Per unit, okay? And for each unit, you're actually going to get two things, okay? One is that you're going to get like a, I'm just going to give you like a random, probably one of the more common versions of the Engelhard Maple Leaf bar, okay? So like you might have either a blank back or it might have a bordered back like this one, okay? And then in addition to your Engelhard Maple Leaf Canadian bar, so that you have yourselves an example of a Canadian Engelhard bar, I'm also going to give you an example of a Canadian generic bar, okay? So like, you know, you've seen like the TD Bank vintage bars. Those come like crazy high premiums. I don't have a lot of those. Well, actually I have a pretty decent amount of the Johnson Matthey TD Bank co-branded bars, and those are pretty low mintage actually as well. So you might have to do a drop on those. In fact, I have done a drop on those in the past, and there weren't too many people who were interested in that drop. But anyways, maybe in the future we'll do a vintage TD Bank drop. But let's stay focused. And for this drop, in addition, for that $100, in addition to getting yourself a Canadian Engelhard Maple Leaf bar, you'll also get yourself a 1-ounce TD Bank generic bar as well. So these generic bars, at least in America, they're not that easy to find. I think in Canada they're quite easy to find, at least for now. A lot of these banks like Scotiabank, I don't think you can go and buy Scotiabank generic products at the bank anymore. So those, like for example, might become a little harder to find, like the generics, once people kind of realize you can't buy them anymore. But like TD Bank generics, I'm pretty sure, and people from Canada like Canadian Silver Seeker and other Canadians can maybe verify for me, but I'm pretty sure you can buy these just straight from the bank if you've got like a TD Bank account, right? But again, for people in America, which is our customers, like these aren't that readily available. Like you probably have to buy them off of resellers and stuff like that here. So I'm pretty excited to be able to offer this up to our fellow Americans, a nice little Canadian stack pack, you could call it. A nice Canadian generic TD Bank bar and a nice vintage Engelhard Canadian Maple Leaf bar. So for those of you who want to get involved in this week's SPS drop, the link is in the description. Again, it's going to be a limit of 5 per person, so don't get greedy. And if you don't want to get involved, I know it's a little bit of a higher premium drop, but at least in this case you know kind of what you're getting. This last week's drop was a little bit of a flop. In fact, I ended up having to just stop it because by the time Thursday rolled around, we still didn't have any involvement. There wasn't even one person who opted into the drop, and that's totally okay. It might have just been a kind of like a slow week for people. I mean, it wasn't a slow week for sales, but for whatever reason, the drop just, people weren't excited about it. And so there wasn't any involvement, so I decided if there's nobody's involved yet, I don't think there's going to be anybody involved, so I just kind of ended it, and I said, let's just prepare for next week's drop. Last week we had a lot of involvement, maybe 4 people involved. This week we had no people involved, and so that's why I kind of made that shift towards making our drops that are more focused on like a sale rather than necessarily like a lottery, because sometimes people join in the lottery and have some fun, and other times they'd rather just buy stuff on their own time and in accordance with their own terms, and they like to know what to expect, right? Rather than have it be a mystery. People don't always want to buy a mystery box. It's fun to buy a mystery box sometimes, but it's also nice to know what you're going to get as well. So this week's drop is catered to those who want to know what they're going to get. And thanks a lot for sticking around, for those of you who are able to stick around. And for those who are able to join this week's drop and support, really, really appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.